In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 219 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
You and I just got done eating some za, which was very good.
It was really good.
So we're full up, and we're ready to take.
We are.
And we got a lot of good stuff coming. You know, on Unsolved, there's an episode out right now on the 1971 disappearance of Kathy Moulton. So we're headed up to Portland, Maine, and we talk about some different areas of Maine.
Yeah, it's the longest running unsolved disappearance in Maine's history.
So definitely check that out. Before we get into our episode, let's give our shout outs. We continue to see some amazing support. Brenda Billington jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, Brenda.
We had Rhonda.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Lynn Gray jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, thanks, Lynn.
Sarah Engelman.
What's up, Engelman?
Anthony Rubino.
Hey, Rabino.
Stella Hickman.
Appreciate that. Yo, Stella.
Joey Miller.
Hey, Joey.
Crystal Lay.
Hey, Crystal.
Christy Titsy.
What's going on, Titsy?
Suzanne Judge.
Hey, Judge.
Ika Beria-Shavigli.
Well, what's going on, Ika?
Jenny Stevens.
Hey, Jenny.
Thomas Hoskins.
Well, appreciate that, Hoskins.
Sheena Grant.
What's going on, Sheena?
Jill Sophia.
Ooh, Jill Sophia.
Bethany May jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, thanks, Bethany.
Chris Shoemaker.
What's going on, Chris?
Jay Law jumped out at our highest level.
What up, Jay?
Erica Duco jumped out at our highest level.
Man, look at Duco.
We had McKenna Eiler.
Hey, McKenna.
Unsolved VA.
What's going on, Unsolved?
And Zach Hubbard.
Hey, Zach.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Julie Davison.
Oh, hey, Julie.
So that new Patreon support, the continued Patreon support, all of that is amazing.
Yeah.
We had some great PayPal donations as well from Samantha Ungahire.
What's going on, Ungahire?
Mariah Kodat.
Hey, Mariah.
Amanda Finley gave a sizable donation.
Man, thanks, Amanda.
And April Wartner.
Well, thank you, Wartner.
So a lot of great support there as well. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
And I'm so ready.
We are talking about a man named Michael Wayne Jackson. And you got to add the Wayne, right? Not to be confused with the pop star, Michael Jackson.
Woo-hoo. There, you do it much better than I ever do.
This Michael Jackson had a history of mental illness and was incarcerated a number of times. In 1986, he went on a 3-state crime spree and murdered at least 3 people. Along the way, he carjacked and abducted a number of people, shot it out with police, and basically terrorized a small town.
He was bad.
Jackson is a guy, much like Gary Evans, who we did last week, who never made it to trial for his crimes. But I think as we go through, everyone will see that the evidence against him was pretty compelling. So you add that to the fact that I really don't feel like saying allegedly throughout the whole episode. I do think, Gibbs, one of the things that I found most interesting about this case is that the majority of it takes place on a single day. Maybe one of the longest days we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
Now, the background on Michael Wayne Jackson is a little bare. He was born on September 23rd, 1945, to Hubert and Bertha Jackson. Findagrave.com shows him having an older brother who died in 2007. Michael's father died in 1978, and it appears that his mother remarried and had at least one child, a daughter named Tammy, who would have been Michael's half-sister. And I think this is very different for us, Gibbs. Unlike most killers, I just could not find much information on Jackson's early years, but especially on the family dynamics. And maybe that's because there was nothing there. And for me, that's always a shame because you don't know if, okay, nobody ever figured out what the dynamic was, or they did and it just wasn't worthy, of reporting on because he didn't have what we would consider to be, the childhood that many of these killers have. He did have a history of alcohol and drug abuse, and Jackson had a history of mental health issues. Gibbs, over the years, he was in and out of hospitals. He was treated for schizophrenia and antisocial personality disorder. His crimes appear to have started around the age of 14 when he and two classmates, they robbed a taxi driver at gunpoint. Okay. That's pretty ruthless for allegedly your first crime.
Yeah, 14. Yeah.
So pretty early, right? 14 years old to be using a gun. Jackson was married at the age of 19. But Gibbs, this was a guy who was in and out of prison pretty much all the time. And, I think it's pretty tough to make a marriage work under those circumstances. His wife divorced him after 5 years during one of his prison stints. But they married again a few years later, only to realize about a year in that, we've made another mistake.
I always find that a little bizarre. You're like, I'm done. I'm gone. Go through the whole process legally to be divorced just to turn around and come back. You know what? Let's get back together.
Let's give it one more shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some people, I think it's maybe one of those I just can't quit you type of things until it becomes, hey, you know what? I can quit you. Maybe they need a patch for that.
Oh, would be a good moneymaker.
Like a nicotine patch or something. A patch for those relationships that you just can't quit. Now, I'm not talking about domestic violence situations. Obviously, that's not something to joke about. I'm talking about those relationships, they're a little bit toxic. Both parties aren't really good for each other, but for whatever reason, they just can't seem to stay away.
Well, sometimes I think they like the drama.
That is true.
They bring it into the relationship because they thrive in drama.
Yeah, some people do thrive on it. They invite it in. Yeah. They perpetuate it. Now, the couple did have 2 daughters together, but it was reported that he only saw his daughters a couple of times, like literally 2 or 3 times. And I'm not sure if that's because he was a shitty father or because he was locked up, so much of his life.
Or maybe a combination of both of those.
Yeah, it could have been. Combo. So like I said, not much in the way of background, but I think we have enough to paint a picture here of a man who, from an early age, was in constant trouble with the law. He had issues with both alcohol and drugs, and some of that may have played a part in his criminal activities, and I think this is very important. We are dealing with a man here who also had mental health issues, and these were documented because he had been hospitalized on more than one occasion.
And all those things are probably not a good combination to have.
No, definitely not. In 1985, Jackson was arrested on a federal firearms charge. He was found in possession of a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun, some Molotov cocktails, and a large amount of ammunition.
Just some personal use items.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, has anything ever good come from a sawed-off shotgun and some Molotov cocktails?
I can't think of anything good coming out of a Molotov cocktail.
Well, give me one legitimate use for a Molotov cocktail.
You really want to get that bonfire going.
Well, that will do it for sure. I do think it's a little hard to argue that you're going hunting or, something like that when you're in possession of those things.
Yeah.
Before his trial, Jackson was held in a Marion County, Indiana jail. The deputy chief of the Marion County Sheriff's Office later told news outlets that while Jackson was in jail, he told them, quote, "When I get out of here, I'm going to buy some guns and start shooting people." He was ultimately found fit to stand trial and was sentenced to 1 year in jail and 3 years probation. Okay, you could say that's a light sentence.
Right.
But again, we're talking about a firearms charge here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too into it. We're not talking about crimes against other people. What I do want to talk about is this prophecy of, hey, when I get out of here, I'm going to start shooting people.
Yeah, it sounds like something that should have been inserted into his file to have a conversation with him before he got released.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem that I have, right? So in April of 86, he was released on probation from the U.S. Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. While he was there, doctors noted chronic paranoia, schizophrenia, antisocial behavior, and they said that Michael showed violent tendencies. So obviously he didn't spend much time locked up, right? He was only there for, about a year.
Right.
It's a little shocking, I think, just because of his record, right? The crimes that he had committed in the past. His record up to that point included more than 30 arrests for things like rape, robbery, assault with intent to kill, and auto theft.
That's a pretty heavy rap sheet.
It is. I mean, I talked about the firearms charge kind of being a victimless crime. Well, most of these other ones are not, right? When you're getting into areas like rape and assault with intent to kill, those are very, very serious crimes.
And on top of that, you had his statement that he made about when he got out of there, what he intended to do.
Now, maybe it has something to do with this being a federal charge. All the other ones were state charges. I don't know. Or, maybe that was the max sentence he could get.
Right.
It also came out that Jackson's own mother had written a letter to authorities asking that her son be permanently committed to an institution where he could be helped mentally and physically. The letter stated, "It should be very plain that Mike cannot take care of life in society." And apparently, Gibbs, she wrote this letter after her son gave her a bear hug that cracked some of her ribs. Now, I'm sure that was not the only impetus for the letter.
Right.
But to me, it's very clear. This is a mother who because of our lack of background, I don't really know how much she loved her son. Obviously cared enough for him to write the letter. That tells you something.
Well, sure it does.
But is being, I think, very honest in her assessment that my son needs help. He cannot cope with the world. He has mental health problems. He needs help.
Yeah, in most cases, a mom knows their son better than anybody.
So, I think when you look at all of these things, it's kind of hard to think that the system really worked here, right? I get it. He was in on a firearms charge, but we talked about his lengthy record up to that point. What all was taken into consideration? Doesn't seem like much, if anything. What about the mental health evaluations by doctors, a note from his mother, as you mentioned, his statement? I always hate to blame the system or authorities because we don't have every single detail. But man, to me, it sure seems like this was a guy who needed help, and that at the very least, he should have been kept in the medical center for a longer period of time to get that help. But maybe it is as simple as the fact that his sentence was what it was. And once that was up, they had to let him out. So he got paroled. And after he was paroled, he ended up in Indianapolis, Indiana, moved into a rundown house that had no electric and no water. The windows were covered with plastic sheeting. All right, you and I might have had some houses like that in the past.
Oh, we had a many
to
houses
deal
like
with.
that.
The Indianapolis News reported that neighbors they interviewed said Jackson often slept on a mattress in the bed of his truck.
Well, I know there's a love with a man in his truck, but I prefer to be somewhere inside.
Yeah. He had a house.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't have all the amenities that you would like to have in a house.
Right.
But I don't, as far as I know, he had a roof. So sleeping on a mattress in the bed of your truck seems strange.
A little bit. Yeah.
But that's the thing about Jackson. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of things that to most people, they're going to sound very, very strange. And you're going to have to wonder, okay, what role did some of his mental health issues play?
Sure.
In some of these things that he did, some of the decisions that he made. His crime spree began on September 22nd, 1986. So at this point in time, Michael Wayne Jackson was 41 years old, essentially living in a van down by the river, or the equivalent to that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, he doesn't have a lot going for him. It's hard to keep a job when you're locked up as much as this guy was. I did see where he worked some construction on and off. So, he did have a few skills, I think, in that arena. But those people tend to like it when you show up. And when you keep getting busted time after time, it means you can't be at the job site. Well, they're going to find somebody else.
Yeah, they kind of want dependability.
But at this point in his life, he was unemployed. I think he was getting some kind of stipend, some kind of pension. I don't know if it was a disability pension, because I don't know what else it would have been. It was maybe $300 a month. Now, when you search this guy, you won't find a lot of photos of him. The ones you will find show a man who looks like he had not shaved or cut his hair in quite some time. Gibbs, this was a guy whose beard had a beard.
Oh, one of those type of guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like Unabomber.
Yeah, you know the kind I'm talking about, where it looks like you don't even have a mouth.
Oh, yeah.
You just can't see it because it's just all beard on top of beard.
They got leftovers inside the beard in the beard.
Either that or possibly there's something nesting somewhere inside there.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he made the decision to spray paint his face and beard black and silver. I don't think he was an Oakland Raiders fan. Now, I get it, right? You want that salt and pepper, George Clooney look. I don't think that's what this guy was after.
Oh, it's all the rave, man.
It is.
Yeah.
I never actually found out why he did it. And it's one of the perplexing things about this case, and we'll see why at the end, but not really giving too much away to say that Michael Jackson's not going to give us any information. Everything that is gleaned is through witnesses and eyewitness accounts,
right.
Things like that.
So make your best guess.
Yeah. On that morning, September 22nd, 38-year-old probation officer Thomas Gall showed up to Jackson's home around 8 a.m. There was really nothing special about the visit, right? This was a routine visit by a probation officer to collect a urine sample from a parolee. But Michael didn't want to give the urine sample. Not sure if he knew it would test dirty or not. I don't know. What I do know is that an argument broke out between the two men, and a neighbor later told police that he witnessed Thomas Gall run through the front yard away from Jackson's house. Jackson was chasing him with a sawed-off shotgun, and he fired a couple of shots into Gall's arm, I think one into his back, dropping him to the ground. Jackson then walked over and blasted Gall in the head at point-blank range. Gibbs with a 12-gauge shotgun. And you and I have talked before about what that type of weapon does, especially at very close range.
Yeah, an enormous amount of damage.
It did. It killed him instantly. The neighbor called police, and they got there pretty quickly, but not quickly enough to catch Jackson, who loaded up his shotgun into his old pickup truck, and he drove away from the scene. Police found Thomas Gall dead at the scene. He had been a probation officer for 11 years, but this was his first meeting with Michael Jackson. So Gibbs, I don't think he really had any idea of the type of guy that he was dealing with other than what he had read in his file, and who knows what was in there.
Yeah.
Gall had a wife and 2 sons. He had served in the Marine Corps as a first lieutenant. He was well liked by everyone and was considered to be a fair and professional probation officer. But I think, a fact that I found very interesting is that Thomas Gall was the first United States probation officer to be killed in the line of duty by a parolee.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe. When you think about it, this is 1986. Think about the number of probation officers, the number of parolees throughout the years. And this is the very first time that a parolee had killed their probation officer in the line of duty. You would have thought it would have happened at some point many years prior and really a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm really surprised it didn't happen earlier with a lot more occurrences.
Jackson next showed up at JB's Market sometime around 8:30 a.m. Inside the store was the owner, 43-year-old Jim Hall, and 60-year-old Russell Van Osdal, a salesman for the Perfection Biscuit Company. These guys knew each other pretty well because Russell delivered product to the store almost every weekday. So as Russell was working, stocking some shelves and chatting with Jim, Jackson burst into the store. He demanded money from Jim Hall. So essentially he was robbing the store. But he shot Jim in the throat when he thought that he was taking too long to get him the money.
This guy has no patience. Fast on the trigger.
Yeah, I've seen some varying reports. Most of the reports seem to, kind of go with this theory that he was impatient, he got impatient. And then I think there are some theories that he was just going in there to kill. So it didn't really matter how fast the store owner moved.
Because regardless, he was going to take him out. Yeah.
I mean, I think you can look at it a couple different ways. Police got to the scene of the shooting very quickly to find Jim Hall dead. But once again, Jackson was already gone. Now, Russell Van Osdal was gone as well. Jackson had forced him to drive him in his delivery truck to the Indianapolis International Airport. But once they got there, Michael released Russell.
Which I'm surprised.
I am too. And I think, we're going to be saying these things a lot in this episode. Why did he do this in this one instance, but then do something completely different in another? Right? He could have killed both men.
Sure.
Why kill the store clerk? Was it really because the guy wasn't moving as fast as you wanted him to? Did you get the money anyway? You know what I'm saying? Why shoot him and then make this guy drive you to the airport, but then be like, yeah, hey, thanks.
Thanks for the lift.
I'll see you later. I'm leaving you unharmed. Police found Jackson's 1974 pickup truck back at JB's Market, and this abduction of Russell Van Osdal was just the first of many as Michael Wayne Jackson started changing cars to throw off the police as he made his getaway. Because at the airport, he carjacked 30-year-old Mark McLean and took off in his red Isuzu truck. They don't make Isuzu anymore, do they, Gibbs?
Man, I don't think so. Isuzu? No.
You remember the guy that used to do the commercials for them? I think they called him Joe Isuzu. He was an actor.
Oh, yeah?
And he had like a recurring role in their commercials.
I just don't remember those commercials. I remember the Isuzu truck, and I think they had like a wannabe Jeep kind of vehicle.
Yeah, I think they made a number of models.
Yeah.
But
they're out there with, the fishbowl car and the Fiesta and all those other fun vehicles.
Well, don't drive off our whole Isuzu audience. Hey TCAT fans, after the year we've all been through, saving money should be at the top of everyone's resolution list. So if you're still paying incredible amounts of money every month for wireless, what are you doing? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you maximize your savings with plans starting at just $15 a month. I got myself a Mint Mobile SIM card. I put it into one of my iPhones as a second business line. And when I look at the bill, it makes me sad that I'm paying so much for my regular cell plan with the carrier I'm with now, because the service is amazing. The sound quality, the internet, it's all there. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/TCAT. That's mintmobile.com/TCAT. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/TCAT. Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. But here's the thing about Jackson. So he got this car, didn't hurt Mark McLean, but basically just drove it to the west side of Indy and traded the Isuzu for a black Escort. It's like he didn't drive these cars very long. And I don't know, this kept going through my head during the research. Was he so paranoid that he just felt like he had to change cars so quickly? I think he was.
Oh, I agree with you.
This Escort belonged to 27-year-old Jody Smith. And she was actually standing out front of her house when Jackson walked up to her with his shotgun. Jody was waiting for a tow truck because her car had broken down. The Escort was another car owned by the family, so Jackson forced her into that car. Not too long into the trip, they had to stop for gas. But they did the old pump and dash, which prompted the person working at the station to call the police. And I know, Gibbs, you remember the old pump and dash.
Hey.
I'm not saying you did it. I'm saying you remember it.
When you got to get gas in that tank, you got to do what you got to do.
It was actually a pretty big thing when you and I first started driving. It was a pretty big deal still into the late 90s. When I was running some gas stations up in Detroit, Michigan, it used to happen all the time.
Yeah, I was just wondering how many times that happened in all those stations that you ran.
Oh my gosh. More times than you would like to think. Now, of course, they basically solved that problem now by either making you use a card or prepay for your gas.
Right.
But, back in the day, there wasn't as many cameras. If you're talking about when you and I started driving in the 80s, cameras were not that big of a thing.
No, they weren't.
And so a lot of kids our age, I had some friends that did it. I never did it. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, because I'd tell you if I did. But, of course, gas was like, I don't know, 45 cents a gallon
Wasn't
or whatever,
a lot. Yeah.
whatever it was. But that was a lot of money to us back then. But they would fill up and, look around. And if the one service station attendant wasn't looking, boom.
Off they went.
They were gone.
I wonder how many times you lost your gas hose too, where people just forgot to unhook and just drove off with it attached.
Yeah, I don't remember when it happened, but in the 90s, by the time I was running these gas stations, they had developed the breakaway hose.
Oh, okay.
Because in the old days, if you forgot, you would pull the frickin' pump with you.
Oh, nice.
But smartly, somebody came up with it's like a cotter pin, basically a connector thing.
Yeah.
Where that part would break. And so you'd have like the end of the hose still with you, but the pump would be fine.
Okay.
Now it was pretty expensive to fix it. So if you did that and came back, they'd make you pay for it. But
so the point there is to just keep driving
and don't come back.
Don't come back. Yeah.
From there, Jackson headed with Jody to Frankfort, Indiana, which is a little less than an hour from Indy. It's north, a little bit west, but it was in Frankfort where Jody saw her opportunity to escape. So they got to this intersection, and as the car slowed down, she jumped out. She survived. She was able to get away, but the car rolled over her ankle and broke it. But you got to think, Gibbs, about the guts that this woman showed.
Oh, she's tough, man.
Tough. She has no idea what this guy's plans are, but hell, she's not waiting around to find out.
Well, she saw the best opportunity and took advantage of it.
Kind of makes the hair on my arms stand up just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because I do think we all like to think we would do that, but I don't know if all of us would. Some people, they get so paralyzed with fear that they're incapable of kind of acting.
That what would you do? Makes you think.
Yeah. But again, I think most people would say, I would do this. I would do what Jody did.
It's easy to say that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The question is, would you physically be able to carry it out mentally, physically? Would your body let you do it? But I always like the stories of people making that decision and getting away from the bad guy. Now, there's no guarantee that this guy would have hurt her, but there's no guarantee that he wouldn't have. We've already seen he's unpredictable. He kills some people. He lets other people go. I'm in the camp of you don't take that chance.
When you have any opportunity to get away, man.
So after Jody got away, he made the decision to change cars again. Now, this decision I get. The person that you had with you, the person whose car you stole, they got away from you. Well, definitely they're going to go to police and they're going to tell them what car you're driving. So I get it. You got to change cars. So Jackson found a mobile home park on the outskirts of Frankfort. He forced his way into the home of Deborah Smith. No relation to Jody. They both happen to have the same last name of Smith. He abducted Deborah as well as her 2-year-old son and forced them into Deborah's 1982 Mercury. He drove about 5 miles away from the mobile home park, robbed Deborah of anything she had on her of value, and then let both of them go.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. And amazingly, Deborah was able to flag down some officers who just happened to be out searching for Jody Smith. Because you got to think all of this is happening very quickly. But at this point, Michael Wayne Jackson was headed to Missouri. Now, according to the Indianapolis News, police received a call at 3 p.m. that day with a tip that Jackson was back at his house, hiding in the basement. So detectives went to the home. They didn't find Jackson, but found what they called, quote, primitive conditions.
Scary.
Yeah, scary. Probably not too surprising. Where he said the guy had no plumbing, no electricity.
He enjoyed sleeping in his truck bed.
Yeah. But what they found was strange. They found a shit ton of phone books scattered around the front yard, dating back to, I think it was 1978. All right. I don't know why you need all those phone books, but
I read a strange article a couple weeks ago that the very first phone book didn't even have phone numbers in it, but they called it the phone book. And then I read it in that same article. It talked about in, I think, the state of New York, one of the first phone books had all the names and numbers in it, but instead of going like F for Ferguson, it went by the first name. So if you didn't know how to search for that, you'd have to go through all the A's and B's, but it was in their first names.
Yeah, that would be strange.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this first phone book.
Yeah.
If it didn't have phone numbers in it, what was in it?
Well, they said just the name and address, but it was called a phone book. It was
I got you.
Why would you call it a phone? Why not an address book?
That seems very strange. I don't know where you're getting your articles from, but
yeah,
I'll go with it.
This news thing called The Onion.
Yeah.
No.
They also found a skeleton head of a small animal on the front porch. Inside the house, they found each room almost completely filled. What spots didn't have furniture were filled with trash.
Hoarder?
Yeah. I mean, I think you can think about a really bad episode of Hoarders. There were also different species of animals running around inside the house. And they found a headless Santa Claus doll next to a chair with no legs.
It's getting bizarre now.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into some weird Twilight Zone. That's weird. That's weird stuff.
That whole Hoarder show, it messes with me a little bit when I watch that.
Nah, see, I can't watch that.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the heebie-jeebies. I just can't do it because I think about living like that and it makes my skin crawl.
It does, man.
And I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about those people. Some of those people, they have issues.
Sure.
OCD type or whatever it is that's causing them to not be able to live a certain way. But
I always have the problem with the refrigerator one. When they open up the refrigerator and they don't throw anything away.
Like they can't throw it away. It's mold. Oh,
yeah.
Now, if you dump a carton of milk out and it's chunky,
right,
I'm out. At that point, I'm out. I can't watch. I don't even want to think about. I can't even believe those words just came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But no doubt you have to think about these police officers, right? Finding this stuff thinking, okay, what kind of guy are we dealing with here? Now, they had no idea that Jackson was on his way to St. Louis around 6 p.m. that same night. He showed up in Richmond Heights, Missouri. This was just a little west of St. Louis. And it was there that he pulled a gun on 26-year-old Cynthia Mosley in the parking lot of a mall and robbed her.
Things are really moving fast.
And we're going to see that, right? We're still in the same day. And we have a lot to go in this same day. Because 45 minutes later, he's in the neighboring town of O'Fallon, where he shot and killed 47-year-old Earl Finn in his car. Now, there's not a lot of information on this murder because I don't believe there were any witnesses. Basically, police found Finn after he crashed his car into a utility pole on an exit ramp of I-70. So, I don't know if Jackson was trying to get this guy's car and Earl wouldn't stop for him, or if this was some type of road rage incident, or he just decided he wanted to shoot this guy.
He's all over the place with this. Do I shoot or don't I shoot?
Then about 15 minutes after this incident, Jackson abandoned Deborah Smith's car in an IGA grocery parking lot in O'Fallon. He stuck his shotgun in the face of a 40-year-old woman named Cheryl Klein, took her keys, and fled in her car.
Probably wet yourself right at that moment if that happened to you.
If somebody shoves a shotgun in your face?
Yeah.
Yes. I think I would do more than wet myself. I might need a diaper change.
Probably would.
At that point. But as if, this whole thing was not strange enough, he drove just north of O'Fallon, where he encountered 29-year-old Linda Scherer at her home. He took her keys at gunpoint and left in her car. And I guess Linda's husband was there. He jumped into his car and he started chasing Jackson. But he thought better of it after Michael started firing shots his way.
Well, that's one way to get people to stop following you.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was probably like, hey, what am I doing? We have insurance. Yeah, I'm a tough guy, but it's not worth losing my life over.
Right.
Now, if he was protecting his wife, that would be a different story. A couple of axioms to live by run through my head, right? Number one is from Roadhouse. Be nice until it's time to not be nice.
That's one of your favorite ones.
That is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
And then the second, and I have no idea where this one came from, is you can always replace possessions, right? You can't replace a life. It's just not worth risking my life over my truck or my wife's SUV. But now if you're threatening the safety of my family, then it's on. That's a different story.
Whole nother ballpark there.
Yeah. Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like they're 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. My wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership is free, and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's RAKUTEN. Your cash back really adds up. Jackson next headed to some apartments in O'Fallon. This was just after 7:30 p.m. He spotted 26-year-old Rick Darcy out in front of the apartment complex. Rick was washing his car. He abducted Rick at gunpoint, forced him into his car, and took off. Darcy told the St. Louis Dispatch that Jackson wouldn't take I-70. He stayed on the back roads, and he was worried about every car they saw. I mean, literally, like if he saw another car on the back roads, he would stop, he would pull over, he would change directions.
Very paranoid.
Very paranoid. And, I think you can make the connection possibly to a diagnosis that we talked about earlier.
Sure.
Right? Paranoid, schizophrenic. Darcy said he asked Jackson why he was running from police. And Jackson said, because I have killed and everybody is trying to stop me and somebody had tried to get away. If you try to get away, I'll kill you. Don't look at me and be quiet. But Darcy also told the paper that Jackson offered him cigarettes as they drove. Basically, every time Jackson smoked one, he offered one to Darcy.
He was probably one of those fast chain smokers too, man. Like a nervous smoker. Just puffing down on him real hard.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What I took away from it was he was a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, right?
Right. Don't look at me. Wait a minute. Do you want a cigarette?
I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want a cigarette? And I think Darcy kind of relayed that to the paper as well. He thought it was like this guy was, had two different sides to him. and they were switching back and forth like on a regular basis.
It's like a Two-Face.
Is that a Batman reference?
It is.
I like it.
Since I didn't have any Aquaman references.
Yeah, well, why would you? He's a minor character. Nobody likes him except for you. At some point, Jackson stopped the car and forced Darcy into the trunk. He next turned up in Wright City, Missouri at a gas station sometime after 9 p.m. And it was at this gas station that police spotted him and tried to arrest him. A shootout ensued, and Jackson hit one officer in the head, but it wasn't fatal. He sped off, got onto I-70, but lost control of the car, and he plowed into a chain link fence about 2 miles west of Wright City. Jackson got out, took off on foot to evade police, and by the time they got there, he was gone. They did free Darcy from the trunk. He suffered only minor injuries in the wreck. Police knew that Jackson was still armed because they didn't find his shotgun at the scene. It wasn't in the car. It wasn't anywhere around the car. So Gibbs, I think we need to take just a minute to recap this day. And really, if you think about it, it's kind of hard to believe this is one day.
Well, I'm just exhausted thinking about it.
It's really just a little over 13 hours from the first murder just after 8 a.m. back in Indianapolis to the car crash that occurred around 9:30 p.m. or so. A lot of crimes to perpetrate in one day. Right? 3 murders, multiple abductions in different states. One of the things that jumped out at me, and I've kind of already mentioned it, is Jackson feeling the need to change vehicles so often, sometimes in very rapid succession. I mean, within 5-10 minutes, he would change vehicles, right? He would rob the next person, get their car keys, and take off. And I just kept thinking about it. Was this because he had some knowledge that he was spotted or that person was going to, call police? Or could this possibly have been the actions of a paranoid schizophrenic, something for which he obviously had been diagnosed?
I think it was.
And or a combination of the two, because, there is a thought that if you are robbing someone or carjacking, I guess is what you would call it.
Right.
Normally I think of carjacking is you're pulling somebody out of their car and taking it, like Grand Theft Auto style.
Yeah.
A lot of times he was just going up to people. They weren't in their car. He was robbing them of their keys and taking their car. Well, obviously they know what their car looks like. They probably know the license plate number.
Calling the police.
Not too hard to call the police. And so he thought, well, I can only go so far.
Right.
And I got to change. But 5-10 minutes, you're doing a lot of work to stop people, accost people, point your shotgun in their face and get their keys and take off.
To not go very far.
But then you think about Deborah Smith, when he got her car, he drove all the way to St. Louis.
And that's so bizarre, because why would he do that?
If he was so worried that they were going to be on the lookout for him, why would he drive that length in one car, but then feel the need to get a new one every 5, 10, 20 minutes? It did seem strange.
Yeah, for sure.
So you have a wanted man on the run. Police immediately began searching the woods around where Jackson had crashed the car. They searched that night. They searched the next morning. They didn't find anything. They certainly didn't find him. They even brought in search dogs. They couldn't locate Jackson. And I think one big thing that they had working against them was the area. So, sure, this was right off of I-70, but it was basically thousands of acres of farmland, woods. There was a lot of old barns, abandoned buildings.
It's going to be tough to search.
Yeah, I mean, this was a rural area. And, I kind of think of I-70 runs, very close to where we are as well. I mean, there are some stretches where there's not a lot going on. It's not like you have an exit every 0.3 of a mile.
Right. You're going to go some pretty good spans before you have another exit.
And you're going to be in some spots that you would consider pretty rural.
Right.
And that's exactly what this was, right? The closest town was Wright City, a few miles away. Police set up a perimeter around Wright City, and they began stopping all cars, looking for Jackson. The residents of Wright City, Missouri, they were terrified. Like I said, small, rural city, about 1,200 residents, located roughly 50 miles west of St. Louis. This was the type of town, Gibbs, where a lot of people didn't normally lock their doors. Well, you can bet your ass they started locking their doors when Michael Jackson rolled into town.
Oh, yeah.
There was a story in the St. Louis Dispatch of a woman who said she lined her basement window with soda bottles so that she would be alerted if Jackson tried to break into her house.
Not a bad way to do it.
Not a bad way. It's got a little Home Alone element to it.
Yeah, as long as they're glass bottles and not plastic bottles.
Yeah, I'm assuming they were in 1986. I mean, when you read the papers from that time, that area, to me it seemed as though pretty much every resident of Wright City had a loaded gun just waiting for Michael Wayne Jackson. A lot of parents kept their children home from school. It was a very big deal. People were terrified. And rightfully so. You have a killer on the loose.
Oh, got to be nervous, constantly looking out your windows, not leaving your house. And when you do leave your house, you're scanning the area to make sure it's okay.
And you know that this is a man who not only is killed, he has no problem killing, but he has no problem abducting people left and right.
And with their kid if they have.
And with their child, you're right. Days of searching turned into a week. And really, police had no idea if Jackson was still in the area or if he had stolen another vehicle and was long gone, states away by that point. The FBI was brought in on the search as well. Now, they believed Jackson was still in the area based on the fact that no crimes had been reported since the 22nd that would lead them to believe he'd stolen a car.
Well, that makes sense, right? Somebody would have had to report their car stolen by now. Unless you got lucky and found one that somebody's out of town, it was just in the driveway or something.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy who didn't seem to go looking for cars to break into.
Right.
His MO was more to just walk up to somebody and say, hey, here's my shotgun, give me your keys. So how's he going to get another car without someone calling the police and saying, hey, a guy just, robbed me?
Right.
So I agree with you. I think that was a pretty good assessment by the FBI. The search had been going on for 11 days when the authorities finally caught up with Jackson. And I think that timeline, that 11-day time period, it also helps kind of give perspective to why the people in Wright City were so worried, right? It wasn't as though they caught this guy within 12 hours. We're 11 days into this thing.
Right.
And he's still on the loose.
Well, if you think about how he lived and how he didn't have a problem sleeping out in his truck bed, this is a guy that could live out in the fields, out in the woods. He didn't need a place to actually bed down.
Much easier than someone like myself could do.
Yeah, you wouldn't last a half of a night out in the woods.
No TV, no Xbox, no laptop. I'm out.
You'd hate the bugs in the air.
I'm out. It was on Thursday, October 2nd, around 6 p.m., that 3 FBI agents and a National Park Service employee were checking some abandoned houses and old barns near Wright City. As they entered one barn, they heard a gunshot. And I think right away they thought, okay, we found our guy. But they got the heck out of there and called for backup. And basically a whole slew of agents and officers showed up and they surrounded the barn.
Now I'm visualizing, oh, brother, where art thou?
You're probably not too far off.
Yeah. And a little bit of Cool Hand Luke, too. They surround the barn on that one as well.
You can't go any length of time without visualizing Cool Hand Luke.
It is my favorite movie.
I think you have a Cool Hand Luke fetish.
It is my favorite movie.
But, you think about it, they don't really know what's going on. They heard a gunshot. Okay, was he shooting at them? They used a bullhorn to try to get Jackson to surrender. No reply. Then around 8 p.m., they fired a bunch of tear gas into the barn. No one came out. They waited a few more hours to see what was going on. Finally, just before midnight, some FBI agents and state troopers entered the barn. And basically what they did, it was so dark, they had a helicopter fly overhead to shine light down to help them see.
Navigate.
Yeah, to provide as much light as possible. When they got in, they pretty quickly found Michael Wayne Jackson dead. He had shot himself in the head with his shotgun. And that was the end of that. Once the news broke, the town of Wright City finally breathed a little again. Newspapers ran tons of stories about, people saying how relieved they were, how they could finally put their guns away. School attendance returned to normal, and, kind of life in the town went on. But in a town that small, Gibbs, something like this, which was such a big deal, was not easily forgotten.
No, it had to be coffee shop talk for a long time.
I'm sure the old guys in town who met at the diner were talking about it over breakfast. And I'm sure even still today, there are people that bring it up from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is somewhat of a strange case for us. Actually 2 weeks in a row, we're not talking about a trial.
Right.
Because the perpetrator of the crimes took their own life. So what does that mean? Well, you don't get some of the details behind why the person did what they did, which you might get at a full-blown trial. You might not. I think you might if they choose to go with a certain defense, right? Not guilty by reason of insanity. Okay, they're going to lay out for you why they did it.
Right.
And maybe you're going to gain some insight into what was going on in their mind, or at least what they want you to think was going on in their mind. And the big question for me in this case is, why did Michael Wayne Jackson do what he did that day?
Right.
He had been paroled. Now, his life wasn't going great. His wife left him. He had a hard time, keeping a job, getting a job. He was living in, a really rundown place. But why all of a sudden that day? What was the trigger? You have to think it had something to do with the probation officer showing up that morning when he did. Again, I mentioned it. Was it the urine test? Had he been doing drugs and he knew he was going to come back dirty and they were going to send him back? It's a possibility.
Yeah. He's like, I don't ever want to go back. So whatever I got to do to keep from going back, I'll do.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Unfortunately, we'll never know his side of the story because he took his life before he could tell anyone. I do think this was a man who had some pretty severe mental health issues. It's kind of hard to argue against that. Now, I don't know exactly what the system could have or should have done, but it's hard not to think that something more could have been done for him.
True.
To treat what was going on with him.
Well, the signs were always there.
Yeah, the signs were there. He had been diagnosed. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. Could it have hurt? I would say no.
You know what? It could or may have eliminated that marathon event that day.
Yeah, you can also make the flip side argument, which is to get that type of help, he would have had to have sought it out.
And that's true too.
And obviously he didn't. So, when I look at it that way, it's hard for me to put all of the blame on the system.
Right.
His sentence is up. They let him out. What else could they have done? What else should they have done? I think those are good questions. They're good topics to debate. I go back to his mom writing that letter saying, hey, my son needs help. He needs to be committed. But he's also 41 years old. So unless he voluntarily commits himself and asks for help, what all can be done? And I don't know the answers to that question or to those questions.
Yeah, but outside of prescribing him some medication, that's only as good as him taking it daily as required.
Right, but to be prescribed medication, he would have had to have sought out the help. So outside of Michael Wayne Jackson, I don't know who to put the blame on. This guy obviously committed the crimes, but I don't want to discount his mental health issues either. Doesn't make it right what he did, but I do think he's a guy who was in desperate need of help.
Yeah, I just don't know if he knew how much help he needed.
He may not have. He may not have. But that's it for the story of Michael Wayne Jackson. It was a story that, when I saw it, it kind of grabbed my attention. I was looking for a very unknown type of case. I don't think many people have covered this one. Which means I don't think many people have heard about him. And to me, it was an interesting one.
I just think the police that day were just shocked on how fast the activity was moving to try to keep up with where's he headed now, what happened to that person, who did he take this time, and that's just that non-stop moving, and they knew they had to get a hold of him somehow before he hurt somebody else.
Well, and I think the movement from Indiana through Illinois into Missouri, that had a lot to do with it, right? The folks in Indianapolis were searching for him. They're not going to be searching for him in St. Louis, Missouri.
No.
But then the authorities in Missouri, once they got wind of everything, they had him. They thought they had him.
They thought.
But he was on the loose for 11 days, just hiding out. And like you said, probably had the wherewithal or the temperament, the ability to withstand that type of living off the grid. More so than other people because he had kind of already been doing it.
Right. He was used to it.
Gibbs, we got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's check them out.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. It's Fantasia from Illinois. I know it's been a really long time since I've called in, but I hope you're both doing well. I just wanted to say I realized tonight while I was sitting here listening how long that I've actually been listening to you guys. And I don't know if I have ever said this to you guys, but I found you on accident while looking for another podcast on YouTube while my app was down. And once I started listening to you guys, I just couldn't stop. So, I guess I started listening to you guys towards the end of my junior year or the start of my senior year of high school. And, now I have my own place and I'm just living in a small town and working. We just got a cute little dog and we're just a happy little family now. But I just wanted you guys to know that whether you know it or not, you've been there through pretty much every step of my young adult journey. And I just hope that you guys continue to do what you do. And not only is your podcast entertaining, but it's really helpful to raise awareness of cases. And I hope you guys just have a wonderful rest of your week and keep your own time ticking. Bye-bye.
Love it. Very nice voicemail.
Yeah.
I do know one thing for sure, Gibbs. As the podcast has gone on, we have started to skew a little younger or draw in some younger listeners. And, that's great. It's gratifying to hear somebody say, hey, you got me through some things that were going on in my life, right. Or, that always makes you and I feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. We get that, every now and then.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. My name's Emily. I'm from Utah, and I'm a new listener. My friend recommended me because we both love true crime, and I've been listening for a couple months. I work in a warehouse, and so I just listen to the podcast nonstop all day, and I believe in listening in order, so I'm way behind compared to how many episodes you guys have out. So, but I'm really excited to finish listening to all of the cases that you guys cover. Fun little fact, 2 actually. 1, I live in Utah, and so my friend's dad actually went to school with one of Ted Bundy's victims, and he actually was her neighbor. So that's kind of cool, a little connection to a serial killer for me. And then also the same friend whose dad knew Ted Bundy's victim, her nickname is Gibby. And we've called her Gibby since like elementary school. And so as soon as I started listening, I thought it was so funny. And I told her right away about you, Gibby. But anyways, I love the podcast. Thank you guys so much for all the hard work that you do and all the research that you do. And stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Well, you have to let her know she needs to change her name.
Because there can only be one Gibby.
Yeah, and I just trademarked it.
Trademarked Gibby. I'm always amazed by the connections to this killer or that killer.
Yeah.
You know, my friend's dad was, you know, Richard Ramirez's barber or, you know, whatever it is.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is my second attempt at a voicemail. My name is Natalia. I'm calling from Southern California, and I'm calling because I absolutely love your podcast. You guys are hilarious. You're the best duo and the best crime podcast that I've ever listened to. I commute to the city for work every day, and it's truly the best part of my day. Driving and throwing on your podcast, it really makes the hours go by so fast, and I seriously look forward to it. I also have a case recommendation. I don't know if you guys have looked into or heard of Chris Watts, the Colorado man. There's a Netflix documentary about it. It's called American Murderer Next Door. And it's kind of crazy stuff. It's actually insane, scary, and interesting all at the same time. I think you guys would really do an awesome job covering that case and maybe like getting into the topic of family annihilators and like why they do what they do. It's so crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to recommend that and leave you guys a voicemail and say I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful that I found your podcast and thanks for all that you do. Thanks guys. Keep your own time ticking.
Well, we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, definitely aware of the Chris Watts case. I watched the Netflix documentary with my family. You know, Chris Watts is one of those Gibbs that a lot of people request. It's also one of those that a lot of people are hoping we never do.
That's true.
From the standpoint of, and there are quite a few cases like this because so many different podcasts have covered them and our audience tends to listen to a lot of podcasts.
Right.
You know, there are some that have been, I'll say overdone,
burnt out.
But there are people that say, okay, we want to hear your take on it.
Yeah.
And I get that too. So Chris Watts is definitely on the list. I'm sure we'll do that case at some point. I guess the reason why we haven't is exactly what I just said. There are some cases that, you know, I've kind of stayed away from just because I feel like everybody's doing them or everybody's done them. And I'm looking for something a little different and maybe some time to pass before we give our take on that story. The same kind of goes with Samuel Little and you know, there are some other ones like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But we appreciate all the voicemails. Gibbs, we had mailbag.
Yeah.
Colleen sent us some gourmet popcorn.
Yeah.
That we're excited to try. So we appreciate that.
It looks good.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
What was your deal with Aquaman? What's wrong with Aquaman? Yeah. Why don't you like Aquaman?
It's not that I don't like Aquaman.
Yeah.
I find it odd that, you know, out of all the superheroes, your Batmans, your Supermans.
Yeah.
Not even mentioning all the Marvel characters, your favorite is Aquaman.
It's Aquaman, dude.
I don't know anybody's whose favorite superhero is Aquaman.
He can breathe underneath water for long periods of time.
Yeah, so can I with a scuba set. Woo, I'm a superhero.
I did like the Lone Ranger too.
He's not a superhero.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. You got a mask.
Okay.
He
had a horse.
He did. Named
Trigger? No.
I don't
That was
remember.
Roy Rogers, wasn't it?
But he had a horse.
I don't know. What is horses?
But I like the Lone Ranger. But Aquaman was my superhero, man. And
that's what makes you Gibby.
it is.
It is. I mean, you are so far outside of the box that I think you've forgotten where the box is sometimes.
But Wonder Woman's bracelets were cool. Regardless of they're cool. The little bracelets, man. Boom, boom.
Are you talking about when we were talking about Patreon?
Yeah.
And you said that you were Wonder Woman?
Well, I meant because
you were like, your exact words were, I am like Wonder Woman. And I said, yes, you are.
Because I could
You wear the
ricochet
same
those balls.
shorts. You wear the same shorts.
That's because I like things snug and tight, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, shit, Gibbs. I forgot to hit the button.
Oh.
At the turn of the 20th century, rapid industrialization, urbanization, and political corruption were ravaging America. But soon, President Theodore Roosevelt and a diverse group of reformers known as progressives would fight back. Hi, I'm Lindsey Graham, the host of Wondery's podcast, American History Tellers. We take you to the events, times, and people that shaped America and Americans, our values, our struggles, and our dreams. In our latest series, we explore the Progressive Era, which came to be defined by Teddy Roosevelt and others who believed in a strong, active government that worked on behalf of all Americans rather than the privileged few. As the United States entered the 20th century, these progressives hoped to steer the nation in a bold new direction, to launch an era of reform to restore power to the people. Follow American History Tellers on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Experience all episodes ad-free and be the first to binge the newest season only on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Start your free trial today.